Wow, your mouth has been open forever.
Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Casey. I'm so happy to have you here today. Today, we are talking about eyeshadow. Now, if you don't know this about me, I love eyeshadow.
I am obsessed with eyeshadow.
A few months ago when I did my eyeshadow palette collection video, I talked about doing a favorite one and done eyeshadow video. And the reason it is taking me so long is because I don't know where to start. I mean, even just talking about favorite single eyeshadow, there are so many subcategories there. What are we talking about here? Are we talking about favorite eyeshadow toppers? Are we talking about favorite glossy, wet eye looking eyeshadows? Are we talking about favorite indie eyeshadows? Are we talking about liquid eyeshadows? There's just a lot to unpack there. And so what I think I need to do is just start. Today's video is going to be the start of a series within a playlist I have already created titled Eyeshadows, in which that playlist will become pretty self-explanatory. All videos related to eyeshadow in some way. Before me today, I have eyeshadow palettes, and I will be sharing with you my favorite one and done eyeshadows within them. With that being said, I never want to get on here and make you feel like you have to purchase, especially an entire eyeshadow palette for this one eyeshadow. And so with many of these, I have dupes in single form or within other eyeshadows that I'm going to be sharing with you, so that maybe if you don't have one, you have the other. In addition to that, I was very specific when choosing which palettes I wanted to talk about, and that these palettes not only have some of my favorite one and done shadows, but I still get a fair amount of use out of it. I enjoy the palette as a whole. The fact that these have some of my favorite one and done shadows is just a bonus. And of course, if you already have some of these palettes, I hope that this is inspiration for you to maybe pull those palettes out and maybe pay a little special extra attention to these unique shades I'm going to be pointing out. And at the very least, if you're an eyeshadow lover, I'm going to be showing you lots of beautiful close-up swatches today, so you have that to look forward to. I know myself, even if I'm not in the market to buy a new eyeshadow palette, there's just something about watching swatch videos that just inspires me to play with my own makeup. There's no ranking to this. These aren't like my favorite favorites. These are just some of my favorite one and done shadows to reach for when I don't have a lot of time, or maybe I'm not really in the mood to play with makeup. And know that there are going to be more videos like this coming. I have a whole list of shadows that I want to talk about. Like I said, there are so many subcategories to fit into this series, and so we're just starting somewhere. Let's get to talking and swatching all things eyeshadow. First up, we are going to talk about the most basic one first. I would say the most boring one, but boring is pretty harsh. This is not boring. We're going to talk about a matte shadow. This is the only matte shadow I'm going to be talking about today. Just matte shadows in general. Just a single color matte eyeshadow all over the lid is a very underrated eyeshadow look. There's just something about it that always catches my eye that is so stunning, so simple, and yet is something that I rarely think to do. However, when I do, one of my favorite matte shadows to reach for is this one from MAC. This is the shade Uninterrupted. It is a warm mid-tone brown, but it has like a yellow undertone to it. So there's a little bit of warmth that I think adds a little bit of depth. It is just a perfect neutral brown that has that like yellow poopy undertone. I know it sounds disgusting, but there's something about that color that is just beautiful on the eyes. It has depth, yet it's simple. Grungy, yet elegant. It's smoky, yet sleek. It's like the perfect effortless glam in my opinion. Throw on a little bit of mascara and some liquid liner, and this is just such a beautiful, easy go-to makeup look. I do have a few alternatives to this. One of them is in the Melt Rust eyeshadow palette. I did end up decluttering that palette, and let me tell you, it broke my heart. I wanted to love it so much. However, the shadow formula itself just wasn't what I needed it to be. And when I did use it, I often used it for the shade dupe to this, which is the shade Rubbish. I did do a swatch comparison in my eyeshadow palette collection video. There's a slight difference to them when swatched, but once on the eyes, I don't think you'd be able to tell a difference. One more that I want to mention that is quite similar is the shade Plains in the Alter Ego Sahara palette. Mine is so dirty. I use this palette so much. This is my favorite Alter Ego eyeshadow palette. I've tried 3 or 4 of them. This is my favorite one. This is the only one I still have because of this color story, these mattes, the formula. I just love it. The shadow we are specifically talking about today though is this shade Plains right here. It's a little bit warmer, it's a little bit more yellow, but gives you that baby poop mid-tone brown vibe, if you know what I mean. There's something about it that all over the lid, it just looks beautiful. I find to be very flattering. Again, very simple, very chic. So again, we got a few different options here. MAC Uninterrupted, Rubbish from Melt, and the Sahara palette, the shade Plains. Next up, I have my Urban Decay Naked Honey palette, and I just want to call attention to the shade Amber. Again, I think this palette as a whole is beautiful, but the shade Amber here is just stunning all over the lid. Oh, there's like this yellow golden honey undertone to it that has a way of reflecting light in just the right way. It isn't too bold and bright, but it's like eye-catching in a seductive, glamorous way. It's so pretty, especially on someone with my complexion or blue eyes. This palette in whole is so flattering on blue eyes. It's one of my favorite neutral eyeshadow palettes. The only dupe that I have to that one was in the Undone Curator eyeshadow palette. Again, I no longer have it, but I know I have swatch pictures of it, so I'll pop them up here on the screen. There was this beautiful rich golden honey metallic shade in there that was one of my favorites to wear all over my eyes. Again, it was very similar to the shade Amber. And the Undone Curator palette was $10 versus, I don't know how much this is full price, $45, $48. Much more expensive than the Undone palettes. And the Undone eyeshadow palettes in whole make for great one and done shades. That's actually the reason I ended up getting rid of them. I didn't find them to be cohesive as an eyeshadow palette. It was hard for me to create various looks. I found that I reached for that palette only if I was looking for one specific shade. But that specific shade and the Undone palette was one that I reached for often. Very comparable to the shade Amber and the Honey palette. Let's dip into the Norvena palette. I have two shadows to point out in here. The first one, and I think it's my favorite one, is this shade Dazzling. And let me tell you, that is the perfect name for this eyeshadow. It's stunning, it's dazzling. It is a bronzy rose gold. It almost looks sort of duochrome. It's just the way the light bounces off this color. There's almost like this pink color shift to it, this warm pink undertone. It's so beautiful. It's so dazzling. I am a sucker for a rich milk chocolate brown metallic shadow. I'm going to be talking about another one here shortly, but this falls in that category, in that color family to me, but this one is more unique because of that pinky color shift. I don't have an alternative, a dupe to show you with this one. This one is just truly unique. I love using this all over the lid. I also love using it as a halo eye. I just think it's so stunning the way it reflects light. Oh, it just lights up my eyeshadow loving heart in a special way. The other shade I want to point out is the shade Rose Gold. It's almost like this is the color of that pink shift in the shade Dazzling, but solid. It's a lot richer, it's a lot deeper. It doesn't have a color shift to it. Again, it's just like they pulled that pink shifting color from Dazzling and put it in a solid color form. I like using this one if I'm wanting to do something a little bit smokier. I love this palette in whole. I think this palette in general is truly beautiful, truly stunning. I have a few other ABH palettes, but there's something about the metallics in this one that are just, they're just delicious. In fact, I think all of these shadows in here would be beautiful as one and done shadows. I love this palette. We're gonna stop talking about it, but I love this palette. The next beautiful one and done shadow is in the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. Again, while there are many beautiful shadows in here, the one I'm specifically talking about today is the shade Cashmere. Very unsuspecting down there in the corner. In fact, it actually took me a couple times playing with this palette before I realized how beautiful that shadow is on its own. So this one is like your typical metallic taupe, but there's like this beigey undertone that once all over the lid really makes it pop. And I think is a great one actually, if you spend a little bit of time buffing it out, especially with your finger, can almost give you this wet eye look. It's not going to completely give you that look because obviously there's an opaque color there, but it adds that beautiful shine and glisten to your eyelids. I love this one. It's soft and elegant, but yet a little bit smoky, a little bit sultry. It's just beautiful. I do have a dupe for it if you do not have the Desert Dusk palette, and it is the shade Snake Eyes from ColourPop. I did purchase this as a single. Hopefully it's still available. If it's not available as a single, I know that it's in the That's Taupe palette. Such a stunning shade. It is so similar. I think this one is just a little bit icier, but it's not that super harsh icy. You know what I mean? That beigey undertone really kind of pulls it together and keeps it neutral, keeps it elegant, but is like glamorously eye-catching, you know what I mean? My next one, I was gonna include it as a dupe for cashmere because I think it's a similar finish. It gives you that similar look, but it's a little bit warmer. So it's not an exact color dupe. Regardless, this is one of my favorite all over the lid shadows, and it just has to be mentioned in this video. It is in the LA Girl Keep It Playful eyeshadow palette, the pink one. There's no shadow name, but it is the shade in the upper right-hand corner. It is similar to Snake Eyes and to Cashmere. This one, however, has a little bit more warmth to it, a little bit more pink to it, but still I think gives you that like cool toned glossy eye finish. I find also, and this may not be for everyone, especially if I'm doing a one and done shadow, I like my formula to have a little bit of texture to it. I don't always prefer that, but more often than not, because I like that it adds this certain dimension to my eye look. That extra dimension I feel like adds a little something something to a one shadow look. However, despite it being that thicker formula, there's something about it that reacts to your body heat, that it melts into your skin as you're applying it. And I just feel like this looks on your eyes so much more expensive than it actually is. This is like a $10 palette, and this shade specifically is one of my favorites to reach for as an all over shadow, also as a halo eye. However, quite honestly, all of the metallics in this palette could make for a beautiful one and done look. This shade here to me is very reminiscent to the Huda Beauty New Nudes palette, you know, like the pinky topper formulas that have that little bit of like pinky purple color shift to it. I think this would make a great all over eyeshadow look, especially if you like something a little bit more subtle, has a metallic finish, and in the light it shifts to like a pink and I see some blue, and I see maybe a little bit of purple in there. Very ethereal looking. I think the performance and the color payoff and just the cool unique colors you get in here, definitely recommend it, not even just for those two unique shadows I showed you, but for the palette as a whole. Last but not least, my other LA Girl Keep It Playful eyeshadow palette. This is the, oh my gosh, it's filthy. One moment, please. Now that I've cleaned things up just a smidge, this is the more neutral of the Keep It Playful palettes. It's a very close dupe to the Huda Beauty Nude Obsessions palette, in my opinion. I actually had the Nude Obsessions and I got rid of it because I liked this one more. I feel like the variation between colors shows up better on my eyes. I actually like the formula of this one better, and this one is only $10. We're specifically going to be talking about this brown shade right here, and this is what I'm talking about when I say that I'm a sucker for a milk chocolate metallic shade. This is the epitome of the perfect milk chocolate metallic eyeshadow. The same as this color that we talked about in the other Keep It Playful palette. It's textured, it's a thicker formula, but I find that that thicker formula is essential to giving the shadow dimension on your eyes. And just like that other shade, it reacts to your body heat and melts into your eyelid as you're applying it. It's so beautiful, it's so delicious. Again, it looks so much more expensive on your eyelids. This is such a beautiful all over color if you're wanting something a little bit more smoky, a little bit more edgy, but you don't have a lot of time to be smoky and edgy. A shadow that is sort of similar is in the Nabla Cutie Platinum palette. This shade here, Rich Darling, ugh, it makes me weak in the knees, let me tell you. So this shade isn't really similar to me. It just falls in that milk chocolate metallic family. This one is much more cool toned. It almost has like a taupey undertone to it, and it lacks the texture that the LA Girl one has. I feel like this one is so much more smoky, a little bit more vixen, sexy, sultry on the eyes, whereas this one, it's more elegant. It's like an elegant experience. It's an elegant formula, if that makes sense. It's very, very smooth. And while it lacks the texture that I think gives this one so much dimension, it has a way, the way when you puff it all over your eyelids, of adding this shine, that the way it reflects light just looks so beautiful and so put together. This is one of those shadows that when I wear it, I just feel beautiful. I'm sure if you're an eyeshadow lover, you have those shadows, you know what I'm talking about. It's elegant, but makes a statement. It reflects light in a way that just catches your eye. It says so much with being just a single shadow. Lastly, I just noticed this as I'm talking about this palette, but this center shade right here is a very close color dupe to Cashmere and Snake Eyes, in that it's that taupey color with that beigey warm undertone. This one would be right in between Snake Eyes and Cashmere, in that it doesn't have quite the level of iciness that Snake Eyes does, but it has a little bit more iciness than cashmere. This one also I feel is just a smidge bit more cool toned. Just wanted to throw that in there so that you've got various options. And I just have to say, I think the winners in this video for being just a great palette as well as having great one and done shades are the LA Girl Keep It Playful palettes. These are stunning. I get a fair amount of use out of both of them, especially this more neutral one. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you're to pick one of these up, or two of them. All right guys, that wraps up this video. Those were just a few of my favorite one and done shadows within palettes. I hope that you enjoyed. Let me know down below. Do you have any of these palettes? What are some of your favorite one and done shadows? Let's just talk all things one and done eyeshadows down below. I mean, let's face it, that's why we are all here. I plan to do many more videos like this coming in time. Check out my eyeshadow playlist. It will be added to and built up over time, so you can come and devour all things eyeshadow whenever you would like. I want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you hit that subscribe button so you can come back next time. And until next time, I hope you have the most wonderful day. Since we're talking about warmer eyeshadow shades, I'm going to show you my Norvena Decay. Again, very similar to the shade Amber in the Honey palette. It almost has like this pink shift to it, like this blunky pink shift. Let's dip back into the Norvena. Again, I think a beautiful one all over the lid, or if you're wanting to do a hazel eye. What is wrong with my words?